The term GMO stands for Genetically Modified Organism and is defined by the World Health Organization as organisms in which the genetic material has been altered in a way that does not occur naturally by mating and/or natural recombination. Any food that is derived from a genetically altered organism is considered GMO. Therefore, anything uninvolved with genetic alteration is certified non-GMO. The earliest precursor of GMO has been used for about 30,000 years by utilizing a process called selective breeding or artificial selection. While humans were still hunter and gatherers, people were beginning to domesticate dogs by breeding wild wolves for docility. Eventually, when farming was introduced, humans also selectively bred farm animals and crops. Evidence of various forms of domesticated wheat has been found in Southwest Asia, dating back to as early as 7,800 BCE. Corn is one of the most utilized foods in the world and was once selectively bred from its ancestor, Teosinte, to have larger and more abundant kernels to provide better nutrition. Although humans have been influencing organismal breeding for thousands of years, it wasn't until 1973 that GMO technology emerged, when two scientists were able to isolate a specific gene from one organism and transfer it to another, successfully generating a genetically engineered organism. Now GMOs are used for managing oil spills, synthesizing medication, and in food production. It is predicted that GMOs have the possibility to provide solutions to the growing world population, the decrease in arable land, and the bottleneck of conventional and modern breeding by making crops easier to cultivate, increasing nutritional value, protecting crops from herbicides, and making medicine more accessible. According to the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, it is estimated that by 2050, the world population will have increased by 20%, increasing the demand for agriculture drastically. The top 10 most popular GMO foods are corn, soy, cotton, papaya, rice, rapeseed, potatoes, tomatoes, dairy products, and peas. According to the FDA, in 2012, 93% of all soybeans planted were genetically engineered, and 88% of corn were also genetically engineered. The biggest use of genetically engineered food is the ingredients of other foods like sauces, sweeteners, and salad dressings. GMO foods are in fact regulated by FDA. Before being introduced to the market, FDA encourages that genetic engineered plant development with the Plant Biotechnology Consolidation Program to ensure the safety of the new genetically engineered crop. Since the program started in 1994, they have assessed more than 150 genetically engineered plants. Genetic engineering and traditional selective breeding has the same goal of producing offspring with desired traits, with different means of doing so. Repeated cross-pollination can take a long time and has the downfall of passing on undesired traits. Ecology is known for these trade-offs. Genetic engineering makes it possible to isolate a specific gene and add it to a single plant cell, eliminating the undesired traits from the donor. It's estimated that 20 to 25% of U.S. crops are lost due to weeds, pests, and crop diseases. It can be more extreme in developing countries, reaching as high as 50% crop loss. GMOs can provide a solution to these farming problems. PG Economics released a study showing that biotechnology increased global production of soybeans by nearly 175 million tons, 335 million tons more of corn, 27 million tons more of cotton, and 10 million tons more of canola just between 1996 to 2014. It is estimated that 11% of the Earth's land surface is used for farming. That's about 3.7 million acres. In 2014 alone, farmers used 51 million less acres of land while producing the same amount of foods, fuel, and fiber crops thanks to GMO technology. To put that in perspective, that would be the size of all of the farmland in Iowa and Missouri combined. Increasing land productivity prevents deforestation and conserves biodiversity. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, approximately 2.9 trillion pounds of food per year is lost or wasted. While there is 800 million people around the world suffering from hunger, food is the biggest waste contribution in landfills where it decomposes and produces methane, contributing to 18% of the total methane emissions that come from landfills. Methane is a greenhouse gas that is 21 times the global warming potential of carbon dioxide. There are now genetically modified apples that have been FDA approved that are non-browning and non-bruising, as well as genetically modified potatoes that are less prone to browning, bruising, and black spots. This kind of biotechnology can preserve our food longer and prevent some of the large-scale waste. GMOs also have the potential to preserve the world's water sources. The help of herbicide-tolerant crops encourage no-till agriculture, which could protect approximately 6,400 bodies of water that are currently affected by soil erosion. Not only does decreasing tilling decrease soil erosion, but there would be more moisture in the soil and less greenhouse gas emissions from the farm machinery. Scientists are working to produce nitrogen-use-efficient GM crops to aid in the field runoff problem facing waterways neighboring agricultural fields, with the potential to increase yield by 15% per acre. To combat malnutrition in underdeveloped countries, golden rice was developed to deliver crucial nutrients like vitamin A in rice, which is commonly the main source of food. It is estimated by the World Bank that 1.5 million years of life every year can be saved in India alone by the introduction of golden rice. The potential of golden rice may not seem very drastic to Americans, but in underdeveloped countries, this could be a matter of life or death. The papaya plant industry of Hawaii suffered in the late 1990s when papaya ring spot virus, a plant disease, that affected nearly the entire papaya crop yield. Between 1993 and 2006, the production rate dropped over 50%. Researchers worked to develop a papaya resistant to the ring spot virus. By 1998, American regulatory agencies approved the GM plant. 10 years after approval, over 90% of papaya production consisted of GM papaya. Without genetic engineering, the people of Hawaii who rely on the papaya would have suffered dearly. According to the U.S. EPA, the United States uses over 1 billion pounds of pesticide. Genetically engineered herbicide-tolerant crops allow the use of herbicide to kill weeds without killing the crop itself. Genetically modified traits like insect resistance and herbicide-tolerant provides much-needed weed and insect control in countries where other resources to control weeds and insects are limited. Most commonly used is Roundup-resistant GMOs that tolerate herbicide glyphosate, the ingredient in Roundup. This allowed farmers to turn away from the traditional herbicides to glyphosate. According to a study done by the Department of Agriculture, the amount of pesticides used on the major crops of the U.S. has dropped more than 2.5 million pounds since genetic engineered crops were introduced. Glyphosate was originally thought to be a safe alternative to traditional herbicides, but the World Health Organization recently announced that glyphosate is a probable carcinogen. Another downside is that weeds could develop resistance to herbicides, including glyphosate, and will require higher amounts of herbicide. Genetically engineered herbicide-tolerant plants seem to have only offered a temporary solution. Pesticides continue to be a problem in agriculture that still needs a lot of research and seek other solutions. Before jumping to the conclusion that because a food has been genetically modified in a lab, it is automatically bad, think about the other aspects in the lives of the general population. Medicine has been using the same biotechnology for years and has successfully produced life-saving medication used by a large portion of the population. Insulin is produced by a synthetic gene that replicates a human gene, yet diabetics do not refuse the medication. Insulin is only one of the many examples. So many other drugs are created in a similar manner. Another false assumption is that organic means pesticide-free. In fact, the majority of states allow farmers to use a wide variety of chemical sprays and powders on their organic crops as long as they are not synthetically manufactured. Once again, natural does not mean safe. These organic pesticides tend to leave excess metals in the soil that build up every year, and little is known about how persistent they are or the toxic effects due to the widely popular misunderstanding that because it is natural, it should not be dangerous. Granted, there are still problems to be solved with pesticide use that genetic engineering cannot provide a stable solution to. It should be recognized that organic farming has not solved the issue either. Clearly, there is a lot to be learned about GMO. That is also a key aspect of science. There is always more to learn. We cannot make life-changing discoveries if people do not give it a chance to be discovered. I believe it is safe to say that we cannot be 100% sure that anything is safe in the food industry. There will be risks with nearly everything, organic or not. Before jumping on one side or the other on the GMO debate, be sure to look into the details and weigh the effects for all of mankind, including the countries suffering in poverty with poor agricultural resources.